Welcome back to Work Almanac. We are very glad to have Bhakti on board with us. Bhakti Kataria has been working as a mental therapist and has worked in different roles in the advocacy group of mental health and so on and so forth. We are very interested to know deeply about how Bhakti works and how their work has affected them and their life personally. And I think we have a lot to know as she has been a therapist, counseling psychologist, and has also founded Being by Bhakti. Bhakti, thank you so much for being here with us today. We are very glad to have you on board. I'm pretty sure our viewers and listeners would have a lot to learn from you and listen to your stories from.
Thank you so much for having me here in the first place. And yeah, glad to be here to have this whole rounding of circle where I used to watch podcasts and now being on one. And yeah, as you introduced, I have so mostly I've worked as a trainee counseling psychologist for an year. And yeah, that I worked in de-addiction centers, old age homes, psychiatric hospital. And yeah, post that I started doing workshops. And right now I am working as an expressive arts based therapist in Fortis Healthcare. So yeah, that's all about my background professionally.
That's so interesting as well. So, Bhakti, what would you tell us drove you into the field of counseling, psychology, and mental health?
Majorly it was my personal experience and see I've a very small example would be when people are in their, teenage years, when you go into the library, you search for books like Harry Potter, that fiction and drama. But when I used to enter, I used to go to the self help section. I remember the very first book I picked up from my library was, it's a book called Chicken Soup for the Soul. Something like self help, a very soothing book, right? So I think it started from there that there's some need to know more about myself, about how my body works, how my brain works, and how this self awareness, self growth ka thing works. And post that I had personal experiences that made me think like I had been a client to a therapist. I've taken therapy myself. And I think during that time was that कि मुझे भी ये करना है. I just don't want to read about it or just be a client to it. I would also like to be in that space where I sleep knowing that I've at least impacted one life a day. Someone has slept better because of me. Someone felt seen as simple as seen, heard, because I was there. So I think yeah, that was the major turning point कि अब तो इसी फील्ड में ही घुसना है.
That's very interesting. I think there was always like this career choice that people go ahead and decide. So I would have asked you also that what was that one defining moment that made you choose this particular career path. But I think you've elaborated it quite well. So I think there was also like a lot of thought process that made you go into this field. So could you let us know a bit about your journey through undergrad, postgrad, and so on and so forth, and what exactly led you into this journey right now?
All right. So basically, I'm from a commerce background. Okay, that all accounts, economics, and all, and that was my undergrad as well because I was into economics honors, and psychology was like the co-curricular subjects which exist, right? So you just pick up for interest. So I kept picking up psychology again and again, consumer psychology, industrial, one after the other. I started doing certifications because kahin na kahin, internally you know that your interest lies there and you're not getting satisfaction in the economics honors degree at all. So that's how the thinking process was. And then what happened was that a lot of colleges don't allow you to do masters in psychology or like clinical counseling if you have not done your bachelor's in it. You have to have done minimum 3 or more courses, something like that. So my goal was to somehow fit in that criteria of having done minimum of that to qualify. And that whole period of transitioning was extremely stressful. There were so many self-doubt. What if I don't get a college in the first place? So yeah, it was like maybe I'm taking this leap of not taking a job in economics and shifting to psychology, studying for 2 more years for nothing. But yeah, I think it was the fact that I stuck through it. I was like, we'll figure that out. There was months of preparation, pure preparation, reading psychology ka books, basics, getting my basics cleared because there's entrance and then there's interview. So yeah, post that when I got into it, once I was there doing masters, the beauty of doing something you love is ki the challenges that come don't bother you as much. You're like, at least I'm doing something I love. So it's okay if I get problems in doing something I love. I will get through. So yeah, the 2 years, even if there were ups and downs, at no point I felt like कि ये क्या करूँ. At every point I felt like I want to do more of it. So yeah, that was the whole thought process and the journey.
Very, very interesting. I think there is a lot to unpack from there as well, because I think when people are in these spaces where they are going ahead and deciding their career trajectories and career opportunities, people are not always comfortable disclosing that, okay, maybe this might have been the better option for me, might have not. Since we're also talking so extensively about mental health, you would have also noticed this when you were doing your practice as well, in terms of how people behave in these fields and how people in our like age groups of going into like college or going out from college and joining a job have this particular confusion around their lives and confusion around how they're doing. So it's very interesting the way that you also mentioned that there's always like a way in which you are streamlining your life and going into a particular path. So I think this was a very nice segue into this other idea that we wanted to discuss as well. I think when we are talking about how you know that you're on the right path and being somebody who's worked so extensively in the mental health field, what would make you feel that you were on the right career choice? Was there any defining moment, or was there any like story or incident in your journey as a therapist where or psychologist where you could find that this calling is yours?
There, as I told you, like the master's journey in itself made me feel like every other day ki I want to do this only. But if there was like a particular moment in which I felt fulfilled, so basically I was working in a de-addiction center, and that was my last internship of the college, right? And de-addiction center is a place where you don't expect to form emotional bonds with the clients, right? Because you know कि they are there forcefully. They're not there willingly. वो therapy लेने willingly नहीं आ रहे. They are being told. They are being pushed to take therapy. So I was like, okay, I can leave this easily. Like the last day wouldn't be that emotional or nothing would happen, right? And we did one closing activity. It was a written activity where you tell your feedbacks, your takeaways and all. I was all chill and calm, ki fine, nothing here. The activity happened. I collected the chits in which people had written their feedbacks. And I started crying when I was reading those feedbacks because I'm like, okay, I thought this XYZ person was not even listening to me. I was like, they didn't take in anything. But when you sit in the end and when you see when you have spent say 7 hours, that is 7 sessions with a person, even if they seem all guarded and all, when you're speaking, they are listening. They're taking in, they're soaking. And one of the clients had written that my best session with you was on this date. I'm like, even I don't remember that. How do you happen to remember that, right? So when you realize that you are making an impact on people's life who didn't want it to be there in the first place, unwillingly थे वहां पे, but they took something that has stuck by them, then nothing else matters. Like then you are like, impact ही तो create करना था, वो हो गया.
I think there are small tidbits that make you work harder in your field as well. And I think those moments are the ones that make you work towards what your goals are and what you want to really do in the field. So, being in a de addiction center would have been a really unique experience. So, what essentially happens in these particular avenues? Could you explain a bit about what kind of work happens in de addiction centers and what is the people who come here and why in India specifically do we find these centers and what problems do we face there?
Okay, so de-addiction centers का find करना is very easy. Anywhere you will see on roads the Nasha Mukti Kendra ka ad there with the number. But yeah, finding a good de-addiction center, you go to Google, you see the reviews and all, mostly turns out to be good. That's how I found my internship at de-addiction centers to start with. And what happens there? So basically, there is this Alcoholics Anonymous AA groups. So that's where these things basically started, right? And उनके कुछ rules हैं, guidelines हैं. When you go to a de-addiction center and one that is working properly, they have a very structured routine. They have prayers to start the day. They have prayers for every meal. They have prayer to end the day. So basically, what they are doing there is, I think, building discipline in people. You know, they have a routine. Like all those people do their household chores by themselves. Like they will wash their clothes. They will take their own plates, go to kitchens. Half some of them would be working in the kitchen area. Some of them would be working with housekeeping stuff and all. So basically, I think what happens there is grounding and discipline. You know, the basic things that get affected once you become an alcoholic. You leave the routine. You don't want to do your chores. You want everything to be done for you. And most of them are males, right? Indian males with a typical mentality of kapde dhona, khana banana is not our job. We don't wash clothes, we don't cook. And when they go there, they have. So I think the discipline part, the grounding, bringing back to life and its morals and its basics is what happens there. And the beautiful part is the prayer, like they have Alcoholics Anonymous has this prayer, okay, that is very nice prayer that give me the power to handle what is in control and let go of what is not in my control. And that is so simple and yet so profound because they are reminded every second day that alcoholism is a choice that you're making. However, the circumstances that are being thrown at you, like your failed business, failed marriage, those are not your like tasks. Okay, bad things happen to you, they were out of your control. Your reaction to them is in your control. So I think that is not just something that alcoholics need, that humans need to learn in general in life, I feel. So yeah, working there was a unique experience because whosoever comes and sits across you, they don't want to talk to you. Like I think 1 in 10 were like batao, we want to actually improve. Others were like literally bluffing around. But as the sessions go and as they realize that okay, this person is not really judging me. They're not telling me that I am a bad person because I'm an alcoholic. So then they soften a bit. And usually I start with this one thing that you think that alcohol is a problem. It's not a problem, it's a solution to a problem. Some problem happened, you don't know how to cope with it that well in a healthy way. You chose an unhealthy coping mechanism, the easy way out. So the moment you tell them that no, alcohol is not a problem, it was a solution, the wrong solution, the unhealthy coping mechanism, but still a coping mechanism. So I think that softens things a bit when you are like, I understand, I'm on your side, I do see your perspective at times.
Very true. I think there's a very nice way of also putting it that how people need some positivity and some hand holding at times when they're going through something which is very deeply like problematic for them and very deeply emotional for them too. Which leads us to this next question about how you personally evolved your journey and started making something of a change in the world for you. I think the next part that we would probably discuss is your own founding of, say, Being by Bhakti. So, could you tell us a bit about this venture and what motivated you to start it?
Being by Bhakti was before this called Declutter. Okay. And it started in 2021. Yeah, 2021. During COVID times when like COVID has just died down a bit, colleges have reopened, and I was facing difficulty in adjusting with a city change from Bhopal to Bangalore. And I was an introvert person and I wanted to express. I wanted to express how I'm coping with it. I wanted to express that how I am taking care of myself. Basically, the philosophical ideas, not basically psychology side, but more philosophy side, right? So it started with I want to express. I want to find an outlet, which is the very first basic of healing yourself, to find an outlet, a healthy outlet. It started from there with write ups. Those write ups were initially poetic, then they went towards psychology because I was going towards psychology. And then when my master's finally ended, I was like, okay, now this needs a proper reform. This needs the current version of me who's ready to provide help, who's ready to be of use, then just express, right? And it was at the same time that I started a free community. It's called the Good Girl Quit, in which the people who are trying to be like good girls, not speaking much, always abiding to the social norms, and suffering because of that. It's a very free community. People come, they join, and we have like monthly meetups. So that, and along with that, I share some resources and all there. And along with that, I did a few workshops, right? And workshops are also very particular, as particular as on overthinking, on facing your own fears, on facing rejection and handling rejections. Something that people go through in a very day to day life, but they don't think it's that big. As simple as, you think कि हाँ rejection था, मुझे इतना hurt नहीं हुआ, I'm fine, I'm not hurt and all. But it shows up in your further things, like you stopped applying in big companies because one of them rejected you really bad. One interview went really bad, someone roasted you there, So you stopped applying. You think that guarding is what you did and guarding is healthy, but guarding is a way to stop yourself from growing, right? Yeah, I won't go only at places which can hurt me, sort of. So basically, bringing that awareness, going towards giving them strength again to work on those things. So yeah, this is what I want to do in life in general.
A lot of support for you and your work as well. I think there's a lot more that you can achieve and keep working towards, and I'm pretty sure that that helps a lot of people in the community. Just before we end up with the introduction being closed, what do you think is the biggest misconception that you've like encountered about being a counseling psychologist or in your field in general, and how do you sort of like address it in your work?
The biggest, okay, I will tell in both terms, in terms of mental health and as a counseling psychologist as well. As a counseling psychologist, the biggest myth is that we have solutions. We don't. We are not sitting here with a ki fever aaya dolo de di. No, right? So people come and they are like, okay, now tell us what to do, right? You have lived your life for 20, 30, 40 years. We have heard you for an hour, right? We cannot come up with solutions. There are no ready-made solutions because every human is so different with so many nuances that there cannot be a handmade solution. Like, ready to make was de diya. So to make people understand that it's a process. What we do is we are by your side. We help you see the way. We help you declutter it. It's like आपने मुझे उलझा हुआ tangled earphone दे दिया. I will tell you how to solve it. I'm not going to solve it for you because if I solve it once for you, you will become dependent, right? So basically, you will need to understand if I come with solution, you will become dependent on me. No, we are here to empower you. So when you are not able to decide if I should choose X or Y as a career, we will strengthen your decision making power. We won't tell you to choose X or Y. We'll tell you how to be a better decision maker, what factors to consider. We'll explore that. We'll strengthen your soft skill set so that in the outer world, you can perform better. In terms of mental health, the biggest misconception I feel is that mental health is a privilege. It's not. I think mental health is a choice. If you want to be healthy mentally, you will find ways. It's not always a sip and paint or say shopping spree. No, it can be something as simple as your mom's home cooked food. It can be as simple as creating art, taking a few paints, creating art at home. So you have to find ways for your mental health. You have to find, like, for everything, there is an alternative, right? For mental health, also, you can choose how you want to feel better. So it's not a privilege. It's not something that wealthy people do. कि अमीर लोग जाते हैं therapy में. No, you face an issue, you have to find a way. Therapy also, you will find therapists in all ranges. There will be one who will be charging 5,000 per session. There will be one who will be charging 500 per session, right? You have to start somewhere and you choose that.
True. I think there is always a lot of conversation where people need to understand that the journey is their own. And I think sometimes they just think that therapists or counselors are people who can give them this magic solution, and this magic solution is the unlock, which it really isn't. So I think therapy is maybe also misunderstood a lot in India. And I think that is also one of the misconceptions that you were also like speaking about, that people don't really know what they're going at to receive it because people have never really been told what therapy is about. So I think that was a very, very interesting point as well. So, however, your profile highlights like a lot of unique blend of traditional counseling and creative therapy. So let's just try to delve a bit deeper into that aspect of your work. So, as you said, you have done expressive arts therapy and you have been certified by UNESCO CID as well. So, for our listeners and viewers who might not be familiar with what this is all about, could you tell us a bit about what is expressive arts therapy and how does it differ from any other traditional therapy modes?
All right. Okay. Let's break it down to as simple as when you ask someone, how are you doing? They say good, nice, ठीक, right? That is a general response. Going into the depth of it, people actually don't have the emotional awareness to tell you in detail कि क्या हो रहा है. They just know something feels off in the body, घबराहट हो रही है. They don't know how to express it. the emotional vocabulary, the knowledge of the knowledge, and you can also say the freedom of expression, because we are such a patriarchal society ki males to express nahi hi karte, and females just express by crying. If they raise their voice, they are bad. And similarly, if males cry, they are bad. They're not as per the society norms, right? So we are also functioned in that way to perform, right? So not everyone who enters a therapy room can tell you in very articulate terms that I am feeling this is the issue. This has been going on for XYZ amount of time, and this caused it. We cannot, it's not as simple as asking them their way to work. They won't be able to describe it so simply, right? So for that, and specifically when you come to then kids and adults, it becomes even more difficult because kids की तो emotional vocabulary develop ही नहीं हुई है. They don't know only what they are feeling. And sometimes they know, but they don't have the right tools to express. Similarly with adults, they don't know how to express because so many other things are going on. For them, so many things are diminishing in life. Their cognition, their ability to do basic physical tasks, motor skills, fine, gross. And for children, it's developing, right? So there are so many things that stop you or hinder you from expressing in very fine terms what is going wrong, right? When we come to art, it's very simple as ki you don't have to explain any. You have to paint it out. You have to draw it out. You have to paint it out. You have to just, for example, as simple as okay, I was listening to XYZ music. It's very sad. Okay, why? Okay, then they'll be able to tell. कि हाँ ऐसा ऐसा हुआ था and that made me feel bad. So when I feel bad, I listen to sad music. So sad music is an easier determinant of what's going on in your life right now. They can give me a broader idea of what's going on in your life than say me asking you the story and you're not being able to tell. Sometimes it's as simple as you ask them, okay, what is your favorite lyrics of this particular song? And that would summarize of how their particular life area is going on, right? You connect to it because there's some sort of similarity, right? That so things like that, right? And again, one more example would be when a kid is angry, they draw very like they draw on the walls, they are like just drawing like this, there's no pattern to it, they're just taking their frustration out. That's anger. Sometimes they're drawing very calmly, a sun bana rahe hain, they're making flowers. So it's not just what they make, it's also how they are making it. Yeah, and then one case I will tell you as simple as I was having this session with an individual in the de-addiction center, and in the initial session we ask about their genogram, which is who all are there in your family. So they tell and we draw it that okay, mother, father, husband, wife, children. And while drawing the genogram, he told me okay, the father has passed away, so I crossed it out. We drew the genogram. We were moving ahead with the sessions, and I felt still there is some block. I feel that this person is in a very bubble sort of way. Sessions pass, 6 sessions pass, and then we did an activity of okay, draw your home. He drew. And that was because I wanted to see placement of people, okay? People who are closer to you, will put them somewhere around, you will put them doing things that you also like. Something like that, right? In that whole picture of family, wife was missing. So I was like, okay, why is she not here in the photo, in the diagram? And he's like, she passed away. So now I had very clearly verbally asked him this before, but he had very intentionally kept it inside himself because it was too painful to bring out. He didn't want to discuss, maybe. There were so many different factors that would have kept him from telling me this, but it was also hindering the process of therapy, right? And just this one simple thing of him not drawing his wife in the diagram told me what he was keeping out for so long. Then he told me how his addiction started when she left. He used to drink before also, but then addiction started when she left. So it's as simple as sometimes people don't want to tell you things because it's too painful. They don't want to handle it. And right now, when it comes out in art or drawing, it's not coming out forcefully, right? For them, drawing is separate, they are separate. For us as therapists, their drawing is a reflection of them. Their art, their write up, their pieces, their music, everything is a reflection of them. So that's how expressive arts therapy works basically.
Very interesting. I wouldn't have figured that out myself in terms of how the modalities essentially work, because I think what I personally could grasp from just the reading of the term was something very different. But I think there's a lot more depth and a lot more like intuitiveness towards it as well. So very interesting as well in terms of the way in which it operates. So if you could like guide us through like a general day when you are going through these kind of programs in your work right now, what would be the essential steps that you take and how do you like work into it?
So since I'm new to my work right now, so whole thing has changed. But yeah, a normal day looks like right now for like in a hospital setting, it's like inpatient rounds, right? Patients who are admitted there for different reasons in different departments, cardiology, oncology, and some are kids, some are geriatrics, some are there for knee surgeries. So every every type of client I've like I would see there. Most of them I've seen because I was asked to go on rounds and all. So yeah, mostly it right now it comprises of learning so much about how the fact that everyone is here for a different reason, but what ties all of them together is the fact that something feels off because you are in a hospital setting, right? It's a very sad setting, like as simple as abhi Raksha Bandhan tha, and I was at work, and every room I enter, the very first thing that comes up is it's Raksha Bandhan, and we are not at home to celebrate it, right? There's some amount of sadness, there's some amount of frustration about it. Though doctors are not discharging me, I feel completely all right. Doctors are not discharging me, right? And so, yeah, day to day basis, it feels like how mental health is integrated into very small things, as simple as missing a festival, as simple as being in a setting where you are cut off from the world. Kids are like, everyone is going to school, my friends are going to school. It's picnic day today, and I'm not there. The amount of for them it's painful that okay I'm missing out to so many things. For adults it's painful because they are like, who will do the rituals? I used to do it for so long, no one is there to do it. Who will make food for my kid? So I think those things are what is like a constant in my day. And what I do is basically with the old age population to engage them, you just bring down their childhood nostalgic things, right? You bring out a ludo, you bring out cards, and they're suddenly lightened up, they're engaged. And for kids, you just bring out some colors, some paints, and then you give them prompts as per what situation they are in. For example, there was this kid who had just had the nose was displaced due to an accident. She fell or something. And now she was so scared that she looked scary. All her life, everyone has told her that she's so pretty, she's so pretty. And now her nose is deformed a bit. So she was crying. She was very angry at everyone, didn't wanted anyone to come close because she was like, what if you make it worse? So with her, what we did was a simple reaffirming activity of who is X person, what all makes her like. She's a dancer. She loves to paint. She's her father's favorite kid. Her mother thinks she's brave. So we made it on postcards and we stuck it on her favorite tote bag. She was carrying a black one, and we stuck on it different sticky notes. That was all about her, all about what makes her her without the current accident that happened. Other than pretty, there are so many terms that are still there to define her. She's more than just pretty. So yeah, for a kid, I cannot explain this to them verbally. They would not take the understanding of I am so much more than this. But physically, they can see, okay, I'm nine more things other than pretty.
I think it's easier for them to also like put it out on pen and paper, because I'm not a therapist, but I've sometimes had to like deal with things myself. And whenever I have like students, I teach students and they have problems, I always ask them to. I think writing your problems down would help you a lot more, because then you can visualize those ideas better, and that helps you understand what you're going through and become a better person through it. So I think that is something which is also something that you mentioned would be something which is helpful for people. And I think that's a very interesting take into how people like mold therapy into their own lives by personal experiences, and how they sort of like think about different things which would help them process things better. So a very interesting like point of view. So you've also done like rational emotive behavior therapy. So how do you combine the creative often non-verbal approaches of expressive art with the structured cognitive approach of REBT?
So I ventured into REBT because of as simple as fact that uska basic premise is that human is fallible. Okay, you can make mistakes, and therefore others can also make mistakes, and hence all these shoulds and musts of life, right? I should be this person, I should be like this, they should have worked like this, the world should be fair. All these things bind us and leave no room for mistakes, no leave no room for you trying, right? Because trying will come with making mistakes. So basically I went into that because of that, because of how constricted I was as a person, how much perfectionism I demanded from myself, and how much the basic concepts of that particular therapy freed me as an individual. And how do I combine that? See, basically the whole process of sorry, you will have to edit this part. Huh. So basically how I merge the two is REBT is all about your belief systems, right? And reaching to the belief system takes time, takes effort, takes process, takes a lot of self-awareness. That when I will question them, that okay, why do you need to be perfect? What will happen if, say, you fail in XYZ thing? They might not be able to answer so many what questions. That requires self awareness. Secondly, maybe they know the answer, but it's difficult to verbalize. They don't want to seem like, they think bad about themselves. They don't want to say things out loud like, yeah, because I'm not worthy of it. Yeah, because I hate myself. They don't want to say these things. So sometimes they won't answer, sometimes they don't know themselves. So basically, REBT work cannot be done further till the time you don't reach to the irrational belief. What is stopping you? The should, the must. So what art does there is it smoothens the process. Because now you are no more the thought. The thought is the paper in front of you, the poem you written, the, for example, the art that you made. That will say about your irrational beliefs. You are not them, you are separate, that belief is separate. So you're no more related to it, so it's more easier to express. For example, I asked this person that, okay, draw your current situation. How do you feel currently in this relationship? And he drew a prison cell, that also with no window, right? And that I was like, okay, why? He's like, I feel suffocated. I'm like, okay, why? He's like, because I have to be a perfect boyfriend or else she will leave me. So now this should came very easily, then it would have come with, say, so many amount of sessions or continuous working. It came out a bit easily, right? So that's what art does, and that's how it acts as a bridge in traditional forms of therapy. People are able to, there was no issue for him to draw a prison. That's how he feels. But he won't be able to explain that I feel that I'm in a prison. That is a very difficult thought to articulate, easy to draw because drawing is creativity. It's fun, it's colors. Sometimes you're so engaged in colors that you're not putting your brain to it. Like one of the individuals that I have worked with earlier, she loves art and she gets so engaged in it that till the time you're not processing it, she has not realized what she has made. She's just happy about the 25 shades she used throughout the painting. So it's as simple as that. You find fun, you find peace in expressing. So your barriers come down.
I think there is also like a lot of questions around how people are approaching these ideas, and I think you mentioned it very comfortably that you make it comfortable for people rather, and I think that is something which is very important. And I think that's also something that is very intrinsic towards the work that you do. But you also have had to deal with like a lot of different people from different age groups. So how do you like sort of like manage these expectations, because a child drawing is very different from an adult drawing something, and I think that also would mean that there is always like ways in which you guide people differently. I don't know if I'm phrasing this completely correctly or not, but people with different age groups or different like backgrounds and different like, if they're from like different genders or something, they would have like a lot more different points of conversation which are not that relevant towards the other people you might focus on. So How do you distinguish between those things, and how does it play into your work?
Very rightly said. Like, with different age groups, different gender, the way to go is very different. So, for example, as simple as if I go to a kid and the mother would tell me, okay, he has been sleeping all day, hardly talks. If I go there and try talking more, it's not going to help. That's what everyone around them is doing, right? So, simply starting with the art only. That, okay, you have a paper, just have fun. So, my agenda also is not to get something out of them. No. I know that rapport building does not happen by talking in this age group. It happens by being a friend to them, providing them with resources, because as a kid, you are fascinated by things. You're fascinated by when you see an art card that has paints, that has colors, that has like that has literally everything to do with art. You're just fascinated by it. And you have to just build up on that fascination. You also initially are not trying to have a very therapeutic approach. You're having an approach of rapport building. Letting them have fun, letting them know that you're not here to insert another needle into them because that's what they have been facing throughout. And that's something that I have actually learned very recently because I used to start talking. And then I realized, no, does not help. They are guarded. So letting them take the space and then you enter into their space. It's their space and you are entering into it. It's not the other way around. It's not a therapy room where they are coming. You are going to them. When you're in a hospital, when you're working with children, unka area hai, you are a part of it. You are not another authority figure. They have enough authority figures telling them what to do. Like so many times. Like I think I have just encountered this 3 times in 2 days where parents were like, she will tell you what to draw. Or don't draw this. You know how to draw a unicorn. Why are you drawing a sun? You know more difficult things to draw, right? And when they look at me, I'm like, no, draw whatever you want. Because that's the point of it, right? You draw, and if you're told what to do, that's another authority figure telling you. That's another way of you being restricted emotionally. And when you rather say that, okay, draw whatever you want, you are letting them express, and that's where the content comes out. And that kid ended up drawing 3 people, and all of them in 3 different bubbles. Telling that, okay, she's a single child, she feels cut off, there's no one talking to her. And that this was after she drew. And I was like, okay, why is everyone in a bubble? So that is what is different for children. That first you do the rapport building, you are making them comfortable by fascinating them, by making them feel that you are not an authority figure, neither you are a hospital person, not there to harm them in any way, just to be a friend. And that's how sometimes I start my conversation that I don't have a friend. Would you be my friend? So that's how conversations start with them. When it comes to old age, totally other way around. I cannot take and be like sheets, colors. No. They have stories. They have years of stories stored in them. And till the time I have not heard them through and through, they will literally be holding paper and pencil and pen and not doing anything with it. They're talking to me, right? And they want to talk. So I realized even if I'm an expressive arts therapist, I need to first hear them out. They are telling me about their life, they're telling me the stories, and they're telling me that because they have tried to tell it or told it to so many people and felt unheard. Right? As simple as today, I was sitting with this uncle, he was 79 years old, and his family was sitting nearby only, his son and his daughter in law, like parallel to me. And he told me, like, we were talking for some good 20-30 minutes while playing Ludo. So that was on a hold because he started talking. And once he stopped talking, his son said that even I didn't know these things about him. Right? So they feel unheard. They feel ki because they have reached a certain age, now who will listen to them? Because that's also happening in reality. You're not listening to them. But when it's the other way around, when you are a kid, your parents come, they are like, okay, how was your day and stuff. They're so eager to listen to you. But as they grow old, dynamics change. They don't feel that there is anyone to listen to them. Right? So yeah, that. So for them, it's stories. You go with their stories. Let's come to adults. For males, I have realized that they want to think rationally. So if I realize in the initial part of the session that they want very concrete things to work with, they're not here to tell me stories after stories after stories, then I go by that approach. I use REBT, I use CBT. These are very structured approaches. I use them because they're also there with the same thing. Okay, I want to get this sorted, and in the most logical way possible, the most structured way possible. While with females, it's more like sometimes it works unstructured, right? It's more on the basis of exploring, understanding their stories, building on the patterns and all. But yeah, it also depends person to person. It's not usually this rigid. Sometimes a male comes and they actually just want to cry. And that's all right. I literally have to tell them that because they say sorry after that. And they keep saying sorry after that. And I'm like, no, I cry all the time and I never say sorry for that. So go ahead. This I just keep telling them this is the space for what you don't find space for in anywhere else. And similarly, when females express anger, I absolutely encourage and love it because they are not able to find that outlet anywhere else. So I'm all in for that. So whenever the contrast emotion that they tell you that, oh, I cannot be angry. Whenever I'm angry, I cry. That's what they come and tell me. And when they're actually able to be angry and tell their points so firmly to me, I appreciate it because they're able to express an emotion they have kept subdued for so long.
I think there's also like a lot of pain that people have. Like the moment that you said that men don't cry, and when you said that people approach you and cry and then say sorry, I just remembered that there have been instances where my friends crying in front of me have been rare, but when they do, they keep apologizing that, oh, sorry, I'm crying, sorry, I'm crying. I don't know why I'm feeling the way that I am. I don't know what's going on with me. And that's such a huge conversation point around mental health as well, because people don't really know that it's okay to be expressive of your emotions, and it's okay to be the way that you are, or the feeling the way that you are. But it's a very like inspirational journey to get that enlightenment and that emotional liberation, I think. And I think the work that you're doing would be fabulous for that. So just before we segue into the next part, so you've been working in your clinical roles, and you've also been like an author and a poet. So with publications like Pouring from an Empty Cup, how does this creative side of yours affect the work that you do as a therapist, and how does your creative exploits influence your work in a professional dynamic?
I think it was my creative pursuits in the first place that took me to my professional pursuits because I was not so aware about expressive arts therapy until I became a writer. And then I was like, okay, I don't know how to combine. So, right, basically, using writing for therapy, writing, poetry, any written form or spoken form of expression, and like written mostly poetry, letters, postcards of expression, when they're used as therapy, it's called bibliotherapy, all right? I didn't know. I was like, poetry, open mics, just writing is helping me so much. I feel a different level of peace after I've written a good piece of poetry where I've expressed every deepest feeling that I'm feeling. So I realized that, okay, this really works. I don't know how to make it work in therapy. And that's when I was like, okay, let's search about it. And then I came to know about expressive arts therapy. And that's how I decided I want to do an expressive arts therapy course in the first place. So yeah, my creative pursuits led me to my professional pursuits, and even like till this date, the day I'm very overwhelmed, I would just open a document and I would just write it. Firstly, just write everything down, and next thing I'll make it poetic because that's like the cherry on the top for me. So I think it's very simple. Like it's I know that's my self care activity, and I knew that it can be used in therapy. So a lot of times when I have my prompts, I know I can use these prompts in therapy and the other way around as well because different form of therapeutic modalities give you different perspectives of life. All right, there is existential that make you question the why, how, life, death, and all. There is REBT that talks about how we are stuck on our irrational beliefs. There are narrative that talks about how we have formed patterns, and I take those ideas sometimes and I make poetry on that. So yeah, it gives me perspective. So it works both ways.
Very interesting. I think this also like explores this idea about who you are and what you do. So I think the mental health landscape in India is also like evolving very rapidly. There's been a lot of
Yeah.
changes. So let's just talk about where do you believe the field is going and what your role within it would be probably. So based on your experience working in different settings, from schools to hospitals and de-addiction centers, what do you believe are the most significant challenges facing mental health professionals in India today?
All right. So yeah, the field is right now growing, and it was post COVID that people like this concept of loneliness, anxiety, and all was depression were the awareness was on the rise. I was not saying that they were coming new, but the awareness of it was on the rise. And yeah, when you asked about how it is going on in different setups and all, I think still the value of it is not taken into consideration as simple as a friend of mine who works in school right now, and she has interned more in schools. I've just been very few times in school. So I've not even worked properly, but the one who worked properly there, she was like, okay, I'm being sent students because she didn't do her homework once, or she didn't eat her lunch today, or she's like, just go sit in the counselor's room and do your homework. I mean, so and then she was telling me how whenever there are free periods and they don't have a substitute teacher, they send the counselor not to counsel or give the knowledge, but to teach that subject, right? Whichever was the substitute teacher for and all. So basically, you are there for XYZ particular amount of work, but you're not doing that because people don't know how to use your expertise, your skills, and also they don't have that much, you know, awareness or faith in you. Think it, if they send you a kid who's facing, say, he or she's being lonely or secluded, you don't think, yeah, acha, this kid needs counselor. You think this kid needs to be beaten up. Ki, okay, why are you not speaking? Why are you not answering in class? Right? So you're firstly you're not working for what you are trained to. Secondly, in private setups, I know a few friends of mine who complain, right? Like for me, I am blessed to be working what I have applied for. But I know individuals who were applied for counseling psychologist role, but what they're doing is marketing, social media management. They're like, okay, this also requires psychology. True, this requires psychology, but this doesn't require a counseling psychologist. So that is one of the major challenges is that we have therapists. We just don't use them for the right reasons.
That's true. I think the other problem is that in India, people are sometimes unwilling to budge. I think that's a big problem point as well as a reflection point.
Another thing that I feel a bit problematic these days is some like online I see therapy session at 99 rupees. I'm like, wait, firstly, it's a very well known thing that therapists are not paid well in India, right? Receiving a salary of 20,000, 25,000, 30,000, like after doing masters. So you've worked, like you've studied for 5 years, you have done 1 year of internship as a training counseling psychologist as well. 20,000 is not what you will sustain at, right? And when, so firstly, this, that they are underpaid. Chalo, let's take it, ठीक है, field का awareness नहीं है and all, on one side. Secondly, you're making it more difficult when you are being like, okay, I'll provide therapy at 99 rupees. What quality are you providing is my concern. And what are you getting by doing that, right? You're just bringing a whole lot of, the benchmark for therapists even further down. Because now it's like, now it has become a price competition rather than it being the fact that I am sitting for you for an hour. So I'm providing you quality work. So I deserve XYZ amount that I'm charging, right? It's no more about the work and the person deserving to be charged as per that. It has become a price competition. Who can provide at a lower price? So yeah, because India is a very price sensitive market, people take that on therapy and medical, or you can say health related situations as well, where it's not the best. You know that health is something that you need quality output for, outwork for.
Very true. I think the personal problem that I have also faced that when I was going and doing the health checkup tests, and they have these like health packages. They try to parcel it as cheaply as possible, but the quality of those health packages become very lower. I think that translates into other fields of like healthcare as well. If you go to doctor checkups, they're most likely to go ahead and like subscribe a lot of tests without really telling you what the issue is or doing a lot of things. So healthcare does have its own like uniqueness to it, I might say, but there is always like a lot of potential, because India as a nascent like economy in terms of development would be somewhere where these kind of policies and problems do occur a lot, and quality does deter so much. And so it's a huge conversation point. I think even within the segment that we are running right now, discussing this would only itself take like 20-25 minutes, but because of the paucity of time, we'll try to move ahead and hurry on a bit more. So if you think that there is so much like social media content and awareness, there's always these like social gurus and social influencers or mental health influencers who are always going to go ahead and talk about this field. So what do you believe that these web content writing issues around like mental health have been doing, and how does digital platforms work for mental health?
Works in both positive and negative ways, I think. At one point where you have so much access to it, it's great. You have exposure now. But with more access, there are more chances of having the wrong content in your hand as well. You're listening to someone who is not qualified, maybe. And like, I would give you a very simple example of one of the very famous mental health platforms uh, has put on their profile. It's one of the person there, and they have written, okay, XYZ person, couples therapist, and all and all. And they are a big social media, like not very big, like doing good on social media as well. However, if you check their profile, they have not even completed their masters. So basically, they are not qualified psychologists yet, but because they have a social media presence, the digital or online platform wanted to take them, took them, put a tag on them, which is not theirs yet. They have not done a specialization even in that particular field of couples therapy. Say if they have done a course or something, not even done that, right? So one of the cons is you just take, you don't know, you don't cross verify, you don't check the source of your content, right? But then at the end of the day, what I feel is when you have social media, it's very much your responsibility to make sure what content you are consuming. If you're 18 plus, you are on social media, it's your responsibility. If you blindly take in anything and everything, that it's on your part as well. You cannot blame anyone and because they have media access, they can do what they want. You have to also apply your brain a bit. You have to also have your opinions, right? Someone can give you XYZ advice that happened with or without social media. So basically you can say that okay, someone who is not qualified is giving psychology advice, but that happened even when we didn't have social media. We had people who used to not take mental health seriously, give very easy solution, the babas and all, the quacks. So that happened even when social media was not there. So basically it depends on your consciousness, your ability to differentiate and use your brains than to blindly take in information just because it looks fancy, it looks very well put, aesthetic, I would say, because their social media in turn is good. That's not the reason you will buy the information.
Fair. I think there's also like a lot of problems here in regulation, and I think that becomes a huge conversation point, because if regulation is not there, if you're doing something as sensitive as healthcare, there are social trolls, there are defamatory material, there are so many other issues that are being faced by these individuals. I think that becomes a very hard sell as well. So let's just like deal with the last couple of things before we move on towards wrapping up. So what would be the advice you would give somebody who's just starting their career as a trainee counseling psychologist or becoming an expressive arts therapist?
Firstly, have a very strong why. When you don't have a strong why, the field can drain you out because on a daily basis, you're listening to stories, you're listening to instances that can overwhelm you, right? And that might be in any field. You would be overwhelmed if you don't have a very strong why. Then you might still continue, but with no willingness or no satisfaction derived from the work, right? So there has to be very strong why. Secondly, to be particular about the field, I think work in as many setups as possible before you are out there in the field as a professional. During your masters, just like 2 months, 3 months of internship at different places, you will understand what works for you. You will understand what doesn't, right? Because I used to think that I would. I would definitely work in a de-addiction center. And I had told that to my parents as well, that after this I would work in a de-addiction center. But turns out I would rather work with, people who are having issues like anxiety. I would work with people who want to express creatively, right? Like old age population, children. And that only came because I went through those things, experienced them, rather than forming an opinion without being through them. As far as being an expressive therapist is concerned, anyone who is starting their journey, I think enjoy it. Like understand yourself first. Use those tools on yourself, and I think miraculous things will happen. The amount of self awareness that comes, the amount of peace and tranquility that comes when you apply those things to yourself, because they are very, grounding in themselves. Secondly, you will understand how it works for yourself, so it becomes easier to work for others.
So that's a very interesting point of view. So anything new in terms of research or career trajectories that you're looking forward to explore now?
Okay, so yeah, like I do want to do a PhD, so I know what I want to do a PhD in. So what I am looking forward to is the field of bibliotherapy. There is not much research on it, just how you can use. So basically, there's a lot of research on art therapy, the drawing, colors, and all, how it impacts your mental health and all. There's not much on bibliotherapy, which is the written form of art, poetries, and those things, proses. So yeah, on that area is what I want to work on, and that is a bit unresearched or lesser researched fields. And in another side of it, what I do and what I'm interested in, what is very emerging as well, is intergenerational trauma, intergenerational passing of mental health issues, right? So there's this book called The Body Keeps the Score. There's this book called It Didn't Start With You that talks about how different generations just pass on their the unresolved issues, the patterns, and it's reflected in different generations. And as simple as the anxiety is also passed on, and that I want to explore in terms of, you might have heard about the Bhopal gas tragedy, right? So I want to see that, because it said that big level, like natural calamities impact your DNA in certain way in terms of your anxiety levels and all, and that gets passed on to generations. So that is something I want to explore on, like on field work, working with different generations in Bhopal and seeing that how it has impacted. And I need to work with some more, psychiatrists, neurologists as well there. But yeah, that's something I'm interested in.
That's very interesting. I think let's just end this with a quick round of like quick fire questions. I think this would be an interesting way and fun way to wrap things up. So one myth about mental health you'd love to debunk.
That mental health is a privilege. That is something I would like to debunk.
The most valuable skill for a therapist to have.
Patience. Like patience and trusting the process, because I know that client comes with a hurry of I want a solution. But therapists also are like, okay, I have a set pattern and routine. I want the client to work in this way and find the solution because I know it. No. Neither you know, neither do they. Now no one knows. You both are here in a journey. Both need to have patience with each other to explore.
Very, very true. Your go to self care activity.
Writing and cooking.
Very fun. One word to describe your professional journey.
Fulfilling. Satisfying. Makes me sleep well at night.
Your recommendation for the best book for somebody who wants to learn more about mental health.
It didn't start with you.
Very nice. One word to describe the work that you do.
I think it's like a hot chocolate.
Fun. Favorite downtime activity or hobby apart from like self care.
Hmm. Oh, so because I'm a very health conscious person, so when I want to just, chill down and not be concerned about things, I would just order in some pasta and watch a very good rom com, or just go down for a walk, a stroll. So yeah, that.
What recommended film or series somebody can watch if they want to learn a bit about mental health or which beautifully expresses the art?
You know what? Honestly, sit with any film and you will find mental health there. You don't have to search for it. You will find it if you just sit and understand characters, their growth, their issues. Something as simple as Modern Family. If I don't know someone has seen or not, but that very well plays out the whole family drama. It has 11 seasons, I think, and so many episodes. And you will see people grow from their mistakes, you will see people learn. And I think that's as simple as what life is. You go through it, you make mistakes, you learn. One of those characters there, like, he's becoming father after a very long time, after his second marriage and all. And he's very paranoid about things in one of the episodes. And later, towards the end, that this comes out that because he hasn't been there for his first two kids, he's trying to be too much there for this kid, which almost seems overwhelming to the mother, which is such a good way of understanding how people work. So I think what would work better than a movie is a series where you see people grow, where you see how their current decisions are impacting their future decisions, because you're able to make connections, understand them. So a modern family is something I would suggest, and find patterns there, see people grow. That's great.
What would be the one last line that you would like to say for somebody who's facing mental health issues?
Your words, your thoughts, your actions. Only three things in your control. Very less, but powerful enough. Never try to control anything more than this, and always be in charge of these three. And you will find your way out. Just be okay with not having anything else in control.
That's great. That's such a nice message as well. I think that brings us to an entire round circle about discussing your journey and the work that you do, and also things that people can learn from you. I'm pretty sure that our viewers and listeners would take away a lot from your enticing journey as well as your insights. And I think there's a lot to unpack and a lot to learn from how you deal with things and how the mental health profession works in the space today. Thank you, Bhakti, again for sharing your incredible journey and insights with us. It's been an inspiring conversation and a pleasure to have you on board. We hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great. Thank you so much.